All right, this is Ricky,
And this is Brendan.
and you're listening to A Gentleman's Disagreement.
What I wouldn't give for the hope I used to find in a case of lion's head. Folks of different minds, because even though it did not share the pains we share, that American ideal, friends made over arguments in an early morning buzz. Need an early morning buzz.
Also, Ricky's dog is here, so if you hear any barking at any point, that's what it is. All right. We are now thrilled to welcome Larry Sharpe to the program. Larry is a husband, a father, a Marine, an entrepreneur, a teacher, and a political activist. He is a native New Yorker and a Marine Corps veteran, a businessman who started a trucking business and sold a successful distribution company, an executive coach and management consultant who has mentored hundreds of entrepreneurs, executives, companies in leadership and team building. He's a strategic consultant for thought leaders in government, finance, law, technology, media, and healthcare, and a teacher and guest instructor who has taught English, management, and business at universities such as Yale, Columbia, and John Jay College. Previously, he was a candidate for the Libertarian Party nomination for the vice president of the United States in 2016, where he was edged out by Bill Weld, who was familiar to people here in Massachusetts and probably across the country in a lot of ways. He has also run for the governor of New York twice. In the first run, he achieved third-party ballot access with about 100,000 votes. The state then changed the rules on that, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit in our conversation. But he also then went on to build a coalition for ballot access between the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, and the Forward Party. Currently, amongst other things, he is the director of national organizing for American Values 2024, AV24, which is a Super PAC committed to educating and mobilizing voters to elect candidates who will restore and protect the soul of democracy in the United States. Today, AV24 supports Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK, his presidential campaign. So a man of many talents and many experiences. We're thrilled that he's joining us today. So thank you, Larry, for giving us your time.
Yeah, welcome.
Well, now I better do something good now with that intro. All right, I got to be smarter or funny or something. All right, I'll try.
Well, again, we're thrilled that you're joining us today. I think there's so much that we want to talk to you about, and I guess I want to start with such a diverse background. Can you tell us a little bit about how and why you got into politics in the first place?
That's a great question. As a general rule, I got into politics by surprise, not on purpose at all. I was the guy who just hated the system. I couldn't stand the system. I was a guy who voted for like Ross Perot and Ralph Nader. And I
Yes.
couldn't have told you why Perot was good or why Nader. I couldn't have told you one policy of Nader or Perot, not one. If you had said, well, what's his policy? I'd be like, I don't know. He's not those guys, therefore he's good. That was my entire reason for voting for them. And I spent most of my time doing other things. Politics was, I talked about it here or there like anybody else did, but it wasn't like a major part of my life. And then Obama ran. And when Obama ran, I bought the hype. Like I bought the hope and change. I thought this is the guy. He's going to make things change. I bought it. And boy, was I disappointed. And within 2 years under that, I was like, this guy's Bush Jr. Nothing has changed. I mean, he's physically different, but that's about it. Everything else is the same, right? No difference whatsoever. And I got to give him credit. The only guy ever to win a Nobel Prize while bombing 7 countries. That's impressive. I mean, I got to give him that. I get credit where credit is due. So, but I was out. I was like, I'm done. None of this is good. I'm out. And then I heard Gary Johnson speak in 2012. And when I heard Gary Johnson speak in 2012, I could hear him because he was an entrepreneur like I was, right? I'd been a Marine since I was 17. I joined the Marine Corps early because my father died when I was a kid. And when my father died, I can look back now. I'm gonna jump a bit. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
When I was a youngster at 17, I went to go join the Army because my father was actually in the Army. He met my mom in Germany, hence you see an American flag and a German flag behind me, right? He had met my mom in the Army, and I was gonna go like my dad did, right? And I was gonna go become a soldier like my dad. So I head on into the recruiting station. There's 4 recruiters there. All the services are there. I go into the Army recruiting office and I'm like, hey, I'm ready to join. He's like, oh, great. We're going to make you a general in like 6 weeks. You're going to have a PhD by next year. Hot women are going to be jumping all over you. It's going to be amazing. And I was like, wow, I'm 17. I'm believing everything he says. I'm like, oh my God, why doesn't everybody do this? This is amazing. Oh my God, I'm so lucky. So I walk out, I've got like the Go Army bumper sticker and like the Go Army book cover, because I'm still in high school, right? I've got the book cover and I'm walking out all happy. The Marine Corps recruiter is standing right there, almost like he's waiting for me, arms folded like this. He says, hey, son, you got a minute? And I was like, yeah, because I'm cool and you can never get me because I'm smart. I'm 17. I know everything. So that's what I believe. I go in there and he says, that Army guy, he offer you a lot? I said, yeah, I'm going to be a general in like 6 weeks and the women are going to be after me and I'm getting a PhD for free. I mean, everything. I tell him the whole story. And he just nods his head the whole time. And he goes, ah, okay. You know what we call that? I said, what? He said, we call that the solar plan. Everything under the sun. He goes, you know what I'm going to offer you? I said, what? He said, 4 hard years. Are you ready? And I went, yes. And I signed up. And I look back at myself, trying to understand, why would I do that? The Army guy offered me the world and I believed him. The Marine Corps guy offered me 4 years of hardship and I believed him. And I signed right there against my mother's will. I signed right there and joined the Marine Corps. And I wondered why. Now I look back, it's so obvious. I was desperately looking for positive male role models in my life. If it wasn't for the Marine Corps, I would have been a punk. I would have been some idiot, some knucklehead doing something stupid on the street somewhere. That's what I would have done because I had no direction. I had no guidance, nothing. Now, I am not a person who thinks the draft is a good idea. I am not about the draft. I'm all about volunteerism. For me, the Marine Corps was exactly the right answer. I'm not saying it's right for everybody. It was right for me, no doubt. I'm very glad I joined. It saved my life. I got my college degree in the Marine Corps, right? I did everything I had to get done. I became a better man, a better person, a better leader. I still use leadership skills to this day that I learned in the Marine Corps. So absolutely. In fact, if you look to this side, you can see a Marine Corps chess set that I bought over here. I still have that here too. So yes. And so anyway, my point being, that is what I did when Marine Corps, I got out. I got recruited by the CIA when I was getting out. And I told them no. And I do not regret that at all. Then I did, because I remember it was the 90s when I got recruited. They told me I looked Egyptian, and they said they were going to teach me Arabic and send me to Egypt. And one reason why I said no is I said, no, I don't want to be, for those of you know, in CIA, you can either be an operative or an analyst. And I was like, I want to be an analyst. I don't want to be an operative. Like, no. You're going to be a spy, dude. We're going to make you an operative. You're going to be James Bond. I'm like, I'm going to be dead. That's what I was thinking. I'm gonna be dead in some back alley of Cairo with a knife in my back. I said, I don't want to be that. They're like, no, you're perfect. You're a Marine. You live in foreign countries, right? Whatever. And I was in intelligence the second part of my tour, right? I had top secret clearance, so I was perfect for them. Like I was the poster child. They totally wanted me. They offered me, I remember this, $51,000 in 1993. I was 25 years old, maybe? No. Yeah, 25. I was 24. In 1993, I'd never made more than $18,000 a year in my life. That was a lot of money. Like I was almost like, yeah, for the money, I'll do it. I don't care. I'll stab some people. Who am I stabbing? So I was almost ready to do that because that $51,000 in 1993, I was 23 and I'd never made more than $18,000 in my entire life, a year, never. It's the highest I'd ever made. So I was almost tripling what I was making. That was life-changing money in my eyes, right? And I said no, because a couple of my buddies said something to me. They said, Larry, once you join the CIA, you're never out. And then they said, Larry, you'll make a wonderful spy. You'll make a better father. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. And I didn't do it. And I became an English teacher. Boy, was that stupid. But anyway, no money in that either. Yeah. But while all that's happening, my mom is in bad shape. My father died when I was 11. So she was a disaster and she fell apart. She got into drugs. She was a felon, went to prison. I pulled her out of prison after I got in the Marine Corps, gave her a bunch of money, get her up and running. And then all that time that I'm out doing my thing and she's trying to do her thing, she's struggling horribly. And when I saw the system, how bad the system is broken for people who are felons, people who have problems. She used to lie on all her resumes and say she wasn't a felon because they wouldn't hire her. And then whenever she got a job, she was basically a hostage because she couldn't fight back for her boss. She couldn't say no because she lost her job. There's no more job for her. She became a hostage, and I hated it. That was my first foray into entrepreneurship. Now, I had no one to tell me how to make money or anything. I didn't know, right? I knew how to sell stuff. I learned that because after realizing that there's no money in government, no money in English, I had to go make money. So I thought, oh, and this is how simple I thought. I said, how do people make money? Oh, they sell stuff. I should go sell stuff. Literally, that's how I became a sales rep. I just thought, oh, I'll apply for sales jobs. How did I apply for sales jobs? I walked in and said, hey, I want to sell your stuff. And they went, okay. That was literally how I got my jobs. So I would go sell stuff. So eventually I figured out you could sell stuff. Then my mom is in trouble. And I'm like, I'm mad. I don't like this. So I decided we're going to start a business. I said, we're going to start a business. So I decided we're going to start a trucking business. And I say trucking business because you didn't have to have a CDL, which is a commercial driver's license, if it was under a certain size of truck. I think it was 24 foot or 22 foot, whatever it was back then. We'll get that. Why? Because my mom, and she had remarried my stepdad, they're both felons. They would have trouble getting licenses and such. So I said, okay, the state's not going to let them do this. The state's going to punish them. I'm going to go under the state, just the number I can, and start a business. And I said to my stepdad, I said, we're going to start a business, and my mom is going to be 100% owner. He said, what about you? I said, nope, I don't want ownership. My mom's 100% owner. He said, well, what about me? I said, no, if you don't give my mom 100% ownership, I will not do this. He was like, okay. So we did it. People ask me why, because my mom was 100% owner. If you're the owner of the company, nobody can fire you. My mom would never be a hostage ever again, ever. She owned the company. She's the boss. Can't fire the boss. She's the owner. No more hostage for her. So we ran that business for about 2 years. I got it up and running. And once it got up and running, they just ran it. I walked away. They ran it until they retired. And that's how they ran the business. We had like a truck and a van, and we just doing work, just making money. And they did a good job until they retired. New York State's so horrible. My mom couldn't retire in New York State. She moved to South Carolina, and that's where she passed away. But that's how I got my first step into entrepreneurship. The second business I started was a distribution business that I did after 9/11, because I thought that the world was going to end. So I wanted to move to Philadelphia out of New York City. That's what I thought of. I went there. It was a disaster. It failed horribly. That was my MBA, right? My failed business was my MBA. But at the end of that failed business, I got up and running again. I literally got up and running. It took me a year to figure out how to run a business. I knew how to sell stuff, but that's all I knew. I knew nothing else about a business. Didn't know how to price, how to project, nothing. I only knew how to sell stuff. So I'd be like, why am I not making money? I'm selling stuff. That doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to be profitable now. But I didn't realize insurance and cost and profit margin. I didn't know any of that. I had no one to teach me that stuff. All I knew is I could get people to say yes to my stuff. That I could do. So I did that. And then eventually I learned all the other intricacies of, how you actually make a business run. I didn't know that. By the time I figured that out, I hated the business. So I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning anymore. I didn't want to do it. So I sold it. And I sold it. I do not, by the way, I do not in any way think this is a good idea. I'm just telling people what I did. The guy who I wanted to sell it to didn't have enough money that I wanted. I wanted much money for because it was now functioning, it was working, right? It was now up and running. And I was mad. So I wanted money for it, right? It's true. I was mad. So he said, Larry, I don't have the money. I said, tell you what, give it to me over 6 months in installments. He said, okay. I sold him my business on a handshake. Don't do this.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that's what I did. I sold my business on a handshake and walked away. He paid me every month for 6 months. I got a check every month for 6 months on a handshake. He paid me every month. I'm surprised, but hey, he did it. I actually got a check every month for 6 months out of that. And it was so I did that. I went back to New York. Then I said, now what are we going to do? I started figuring out what the next step was. And I started a consulting business, which I still have to this day. That's my name is consulting. I've been doing that for over 20 years now. That's what I'm doing. That's my business now. And why do I bring up all of that? Because all of that is what showed me how much the state sucks, how entrepreneurialism is the answer, how capitalism is the answer to get people out of bad spots. And then all of a sudden at that time, when Gary Johnson started speaking, he was an entrepreneur like me. I could hear him. Other people I couldn't hear. Many people said better things than Gary Johnson said, right? I just couldn't hear them. I could hear Gary, that connected with me. And he brought me into the party. And that got me involved, and I supported him. And in 2014, I supported our governor candidate here. I was writing checks. So I was making some money, so I was writing some checks. I was supporting candidates. I was doing debate prep, stuff like that. 2016, I decided to run for VP because I wanted to support Gary Johnson. I thought I could support him better than Bill Weld. I thought Bill Weld would leave our party. He did. I also thought Gary Johnson would leave our party. He did. I knew I would stay. So I thought if I got this VP spot, I could make real impact. I could keep the party going. We could start building elder statesmen in the party, which we don't have in the Libertarian Party. All the parties have elder statesmen, right? We have none. We don't have. They go to our party, they leave. We did a one and done. They're out. So I thought, all right, I'll be the guy who'll start the elder statesman. I'll start that. I'll be that guy. I lost by 31 votes. Not that I'm counting. Okay, stop, Ricky. I'm not counting. You're counting. You're counting, not me. Anyway, so I lost by 31 votes, and then I decided I'm fed up. I decided to leave New York. I said, I'm done. New York is a disaster. It's a pain in my ass. I'm out. So I thought, what city can I go to that I could survive in and function well in? I thought, you know what? Charlotte. That's a good city. It's down south, North Carolina. So I went there. I physically went there, looked around, checked out some houses, and I saw that I could sell my shoebox of a house here in Queens and buy a mansion in North Carolina. And have money saved over to have a better lifestyle. And I thought, this is great. But I got mad. I didn't leave. I got mad. And I said, why does my state suck so bad? My beautiful New York State, which is one of the most beautiful states in the entire union, everything you want in this state. Why do I have to leave my family, my friends, where I'm born, my business associates, my business? Why? Because my state sucks? No. I am going back to New York. I'm going to run for governor. I'm going to win the governorship, and I'm going to change this state. That did not go as planned. However, that was the plan. So I went back and I ran for office. And when I ran for office, I literally didn't work for a year and a half. I'd run the most powerful libertarian campaign, non-presidential, that had ever been run. Wasn't even close. I'd raised more money. I raised $500,000. I'd gotten on all the big shows, everything from Glenn Beck to Joe Rogan to all the big shows. I was, doing all the cool things, and I got ballot access for New York State for the first time ever in the history of the Libertarian Party. I got 6 times the number of votes the last guy got. That's how big it is, and that was a massive deal. Now you might go, Larry, you still got your ass kicked. True, but it's New York State, and I'm a libertarian, and I ran as a libertarian in the state that Cato has ranked as the least free 6 years running. Least free. Take that, California. We're number 1, right? So that state, I got 2% of the vote, 100,000 votes. That was an amazing task. I was happy with that, right? So then I get ballot access, and you might go, well, so what? Here's the problem. I was serious about building infrastructure. I wasn't joking. We had 15 local affiliates in New York State. There are 62 counties. We had 15 counties with affiliates. When I was done with my campaign, we had 30. We had doubled the number of infrastructure pieces within counties. That matters in politics tremendously, right? Most non-duopoly parties have nothing, right? They basically survive. I built it up to 30. And I crossed the state in 2019, teaching people, supporting people. We had 103 local victories as libertarians, again, in New York State. There were 107 local, like school boards and city councils, right? Water board, but they were still elected. People voted for libertarians in New York State, 107 local victories. At that point, the state said, no, that's a bridge too far. Larry can get a little bit of popularity. It's fine. And he'll go away. But no. They then changed the rules, revoked our status. We lost everything. 2020, we lost ballot access. 2022, the Republicans sued me off the ballot when I got on, and the courts never cared. Supreme Court would not hear my case, and ballot access destroyed Libertarian Party in New York State.
So I want to pick up right there. So I
went long. I apologize. Did I answer your question?
That's yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, more than answer. But the ballot access thing, can you explain to people who maybe aren't as tuned into this as you are, why is ballot access so critical for candidates and for parties?
Well, I would ask a generic question up front for anyone listening and someone watching that, hey, do you think it's a good idea for 2 private companies to run the elections of the United States of America? most people would say that's a terrible idea. You're right. That's what we have right now. And I'm not making that up. The Democratic Party and Republican Party are two private organizations, private companies, and that is as described by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has announced it to be true because when Bernie Sanders sued the Democrats saying, no, you can't just put Hillary, you have to give us free and fair elections. And he went to the Supreme Court and they went, no, they're private companies. They are not required to do anything like that. They can just go, you know what? I like that guy. You know, that guy, Ricky, let's make him the nominee. Done. You could just do that if you want to. And that's fine. And to be forward, as a veteran, I don't mind that. I think it's fine. Private organizations should have whatever rules they want, whoever they want. The problem is they control the ballot. That's my problem. That problem is the problem because now they decide who gets put on the ballot. And what people don't realize is you're not supposed to be printing ballots. That's not a thing. That's not in the Constitution. That's nowhere. I'm supposed to write in whoever I want, and they're supposed to count it. That's how our country works until parties come and go, no, we're going to print the ballot up. Wait a minute, why? Who says that? And we're going to decide who goes on that ballot. Where the hell did that come from? That's parties taking control because when your name is in a ballot, that is the state legitimizing you. That is the state advertising for you. That is literally unconstitutional and wrong. And you cannot find a judge with the cojones to say no, because they're part of the same system. Our judiciary has completely failed us in this regard. Now you might go, wait a minute, Larry, you're telling me that I can't get my name on a ballot? Correct. That's what I'm telling you. I hear all the time, you third parties, if you run more candidates, we physically cannot get on the ballot. We cannot. My argument to judges, which they completely blew off, was you have to change this. They would say, why? I have no jurisdiction. You have to. The people who make the laws are the ones keeping me off the ballot. So I can't change the laws because I can't win an election to get into power to change the law. The only person who can change this is you. And I would tell the judges this. Again, this is on record. If anybody cares, you can go check the records at the public records in New York State. My argument was many simple arguments, but one of them was, what is the harm in me being on a ballot? None. Just don't vote for me. In 2018, millions of New Yorkers did not vote for me, right? I have evidence of this, right? You go on a ballot, just, I don't like Larry. I don't know who he is. Who cares? Next guy. Fine. No harm. What's the harm of taking me off the ballot once I'm on? You have 100,000 New Yorkers who wanted to vote for me and didn't. Now they can't because New York State won't even count the write-in. Again, blatantly unconstitutional. So if you write me in, if it's not 1 or 2%, they won't even count it. I don't know how many write-in votes I got. They don't count it. It doesn't matter. That is how unconstitutional, and no judge will step in and go, holy crap, that's horrible. They won't do it. So now people don't even know. And you might say, well, why does that matter so much? Here's the most important thing that I talk about. When it comes to third parties, the vast majority of people, when they voted for me in 2018, or when they vote for whomever, but I'm using me as an example because I know that example, they knew I wasn't going to win, right? It wasn't like, Larry's my next governor. Don't get me wrong. Some people who really love me did believe that. And it's fine. Like, you know, I'm sure some people like, yay, he's going to win, I'm sure. But that's like maybe 1%. I'm probably being kind when I say that. Actually believed I was going to win. The rest knew I wasn't going to win. So what does that mean? It was literally a protest vote. That is your First Amendment right. Just like those guys in Michigan who, during the Democratic primary, voted non-committal.
Yeah.
They got out of bed, did not put on Netflix or their PS5, and they actually went down to go, to hell with you, Biden. They did that. Well, they voted for me. 100,000 New Yorkers did that. You took away their First Amendment rights. And you might say, is that important, Larry, or is that just you? Let me give another example in New York City. Some of you may remember this guy named Jimmy McMillan. Jimmy McMillan ran a party in New York City called the Rent is Too Damn High Party. Yes, you're nodding your head. You remember him. Yes, absolutely. Now, he was never going to be mayor. Everyone knew he was never going to be mayor. But every single time he was on that stage, what do we talk about?
Rent.
Damn rent, which New Yorkers care about. You want your issue taken care of? Ballot access gets people talking about your issue. See, your dog is kissing you because your dog knows I'm right. Your dog needs to say, that guy's right. Yes, correct. It gets your issue talked about. If the rent is too damn high party guy gets 3, 4, 5% of the vote, now the person who wins has to take care of the rent.
Yeah. Right.
So this is why ballot access is so critical. What happens is once the ballot is stopped, now we have this two-party system that now no matter what, nothing gets solved.
Yep.
And I want you listen right now to realize something. It's critical to understand. The Democrats and Republicans in the last 20 years, both of them have owned all four, the House, the Senate, Supreme Court, and the presidency together at one point. What have either of them solved? Nothing. Did the Democrats give you Medicare for all? Did the Democrats give you codification of Roe v. Wade? The Republicans close the border. The Republicans give you a fix in the debt. No, all the things they yell about when they get power, they don't fix. Why? They don't have to. All they have to do is go other guy bad.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
They don't have to. There's
Here-
literally no incentive. They just go other
Yeah.
guy bad. And
Yeah.
we keep voting back and forth. That is why they fight. And if you're a Democrat, Republican listening right now, understand when you give to either of those parties, they are taking your money every year. And I'm not exaggerating. Do your own homework because it's true. And they are suing people off the ballot. They are using your money to take away your choice. Why? Because as long as there's no choice, they can be crappy. They can be bad. They can suck. There's a point right now in our elections right now to where we don't actually have any voice in our government. Why do you think you have January 6th? Why do you think you have BLM riots? When people have no voice, they turn to violence. That's how it works. The way to fix this, all of this, everything, the underlying piece, which is why I'm so adamant about this, is ballot access. That is the underlying piece. If you fix ballot access, you can fix the border if you care about the border. You can fix Medicare if you're going to fix Medicare. You can fix the wars if you care about that. Whatever is your issue can get fixed if we fix ballot access. If you live in a city like me, I literally have no say in my government. None. I'm not a member of the Democratic Party. If you're not a member of the Democratic Party, you have no say in New York City politics. My city representative, my state representative, and my federal representative are all members of the DSA. They have no chance of losing in any election ever. They will never lose. In fact, when it comes to the state level, the Republican Party has not run a candidate in 10 years. They don't run a candidate. They don't bother. That's where we are now. Why are people so frustrated? Why they're not fixing anything? They don't have to. New York City is falling apart. New York State is falling apart. We're losing 300,000 people every single year. They don't have to. Why am I saying all of this? Because I know what you're thinking. Larry, you're a libertarian. Why in the world are you working with AV4 supporting Bobby Kennedy Jr., who is not a libertarian? Because I actually would support him or Cornel West, who is not libertarian, or Jill Stein, who is not libertarian. I would support anybody who would break a hole in this system so I can get out there and change this nation. I'm here specifically working with them on ballot access. Ballot access is everything because getting on the ballot will change how people act. Why didn't the Democratic Party right now? I'm not joking again. This is already known. They put $1 billion aside to fight third parties to get them off the ballot. Do anyone listening? Just simple Google search. That's an actual statement. I think it's 1.2 billion, but over $1 billion put together to do that. Not, to be clear, not to like say, I don't know, have a better outcome for Biden, to do something better for us, or to do some advertising, or no, to throw people off the ballot. $1.2 billion. This is why they know, because if someone like Bobby Kennedy, my lawsuit, I went to court 8 times. 4 times in state court, 4 times in federal court. Supreme Court decided to not see my case. They'll see Bobby Kennedy's case because he's Bobby Kennedy. I'm some guy from Queens. They're not going to see my case. I get it. Bobby Kennedy, that's going to Supreme Court. That goes to Supreme Court. We all win. We all win. I don't care where you are. You're third party. You win. So I'm in. Let's do this. Imagine if Bobby Kennedy gets on the ballot. Well, if he gets on the ballot, he'll also get in the debate stage. They keep out debates. Since Ross Perot happened, that's when everything changed. Yeah. Ross Perot is when all of a sudden all the bad ballot access things happen, all of the and no one getting debates happened. They're like, that's too scary. That changed everything. Ross Perot was good and bad. Good in that he showed what he could do, bad in that he built no infrastructure. I'm trying to build infrastructure. I saw what Ross Perot did and failed at. I wanted to actually build it out, and they hit me even harder than they hit him, and I'm some guy from Queens. But if Bobby Kennedy gets on the ballot, he will always get in the debate stage. Without the debate stage, the problem is we're going to have two old men yelling at each other. That's it. With Bobby on the debate stage, we'll have to talk about issues.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I know I go long, guys. I apologize.
No. It's really helpful to get the full picture. I think, if you followed the outcome of the 2020 election, you would understand why they are spending so well. Obviously, there's a consolidation of power aspect of it, but what they would say is they're spending that money because losing Michigan by 10,000 votes or Arizona or Georgia or whatever.
Yep.
Often can be ascribed to, well, here are 10,000 votes that went to this third party candidate who, if they weren't on the ballot, they would have come to me.
That's accurate.
Right. What?
And ethically wrong. You are correct. What they're
Yeah.
doing is smart. They're doing it because it works, right? Throwing me off the ballot worked. I mean, it's the right answer. I'm not saying what they're doing is right. I'm saying what they're doing is ethically wrong. It's horrible. How dare they say they own those votes? Why? Because of gerrymandering. With gerrymandering, parties pick voters. Voters don't pick parties. And again, our Supreme Court, our judges again, our judiciary has again abandoned us, and it's an embarrassment to our entire country. They said gerrymandering. That's fine. It's fine. Why would you do what? If you asked any American in the country, 10 of them, is gerrymandering a good thing? 9 go, no, it's stupid. Of course it's bad. Our Supreme Court, totally fine. What a bunch of sellouts we have in our judiciary. Our judges across this country are a damn embarrassment. They're ashamed. They do anything they can to not decide, anything they can to not get in trouble. They want to sit in their cushy little fiefdoms and just be little petty tyrants, and that's all they want to be. They are terrible. They're an embarrassment. They should step up and do something, and they don't. They've forgotten the Constitution told them their job is to check these two other branches, not to just rubber stamp them. I'm sorry, you got me going, but yes, you are correct in what you said, 100%. And here's the issue. What they should be doing, here's what you got to think to yourself. If you're a Democrat now, I use Democrats and Republicans, I use both of them. You're a Democrat now, and you go, Donald Trump is the evilest guy in the world. He's terrible. He's blah, blah, blah. Okay, he's all these horrible things you called him. And they're still voting for him over your guy. How bad is your guy? How bad is your guy? How about you get a better guy?
Yeah.
Right? He's a felon and he's a blah, blah. Oh, they're voting for him over your guy. Your guy sucks. And if I would go to Republicans, Biden, he's gone already, and he's an old man. His weekend at Bernie's, he's basically dead already. Okay, they're voting for a dead guy over your guy. How bad is your guy if they're voting for a dead guy over you? So how about instead say, maybe my candidates suck, right? There's no difference in someone in business saying, well, Coke and Pepsi are the right ones, so we're going to make sure no one else goes on the shelves. Now, we've said in the courts, that's against the law. You can't do that. You can't just say, only 2 people go on your shelves. That's bad, right? That's oligarchy, or that's monopoly. But in politics, totally fine.
But I guess maybe the question is, like, what is the argument that they make, right? Because I think the understated thing, or the sort of the underside of it, is that we want to stay in power, and by removing all these other candidates, we ensure that we're going to stay in power. But that you can't go to, I assume you can't go to court and make that argument. So what are they? Or maybe you can.
No, a judge literally said, his words, this in Steuben County. Again, if anyone's a geek, you can go. This is all on the record. It's public knowledge. He said in Steuben County, New York, in this town of Bath, that judge, I know it was in a court when he said it. He goes, yeah, that's fine. These laws are made to keep people off the ballot who can't win. He said that openly. So yes, in court, you absolutely can say it. The judges are part of this. So in court, you can, but in public, you don't. What do you say in public? This is the most important election of our lifetime. I've been saying it every 2 years since 1976. That's what you do. You use fear to scare the other into voting for my guy. Because I know I killed somebody. I know I did. But that guy killed 4 people. So, you don't want a multi-murderer. You don't want that. just me. I just killed one. I think that is what we're having right now. So that is how they do it. In the courts, they literally just say, no, this is to keep us in power. Just go, yeah, that's right. We like it. So in court, totally fine. I literally put in court again. I told the judge, and this was in Albany. I said, you are ensuring an aristocracy. You are ensuring that only people who are either super wealthy or already in government can run for office. You're ensuring an aristocracy. And he was like, yep. Yes, so in court, 100% fine. Again, they're all part of it. In the public, they would never get away with that. So in the public, they go, you got to understand, Brendan, you're Ricky, that guy, this is about democracy. If that guy Ricky wins, there'll be no democracy. You got to vote for me. They say that every 2 years. So to answer your question, in court, they're absolutely open. Out in public, it's because the other guy is basically every guy I don't like is Hitler.
Yeah.
Is basically what it is.
So to go to your role with American Values, the Super PAC
Sure.
supporting RFK, if you go to the website, and again, people can look this up, it says that we're going to prioritize these states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Maryland, West Virginia, South Carolina, Massachusetts, Indiana, Illinois, Texas, and New York. Those states run the gamut, right? You have states that are assuredly going to Donald Trump, states that are assuredly going to Joe Biden, and then there are those critical swing states that Ricky just referenced in the middle. So can you talk a little bit about how you identified those states and what's really the goal of ballot access in those states for the Kennedy campaign?
Yes, the problem we have is in the wisdom of the Supreme Court, which I think they have no wisdom.
Clearly.
In the wisdom of the Supreme Court, they decided that super PACs were a good idea, except one thing: we don't want to coordinate.
Right.
Holy crap, is that stupid? So in their minds, they say dollars are speech, okay, but you can't do it with the candidate that you want to get elected. What kind of, that makes literally no sense. Either they're not speech or do what you want. Either one is true. So you have freedom of speech, but you can't talk to your cousin. That's what they basically said. That's our Supreme Court. How insanely stupid is that? But that's where we are, right? I can be mad at the law all I want, and I am, clearly. But the fact is we cannot coordinate. So me being part of the PAC, I cannot coordinate or talk with the campaign. So we basically have to hope that we're both doing something smart. And I'm not sound stupid, but that's what we have to do. So we openly picked all of these states. We couldn't coordinate with them, right? So we said, these are the states we think were important. We picked states that we believe the internal state laws. And for people who think ballot access is easy, it's not.
Right.
Ballot access is different in each state.
Yep.
Each state has separate rules, and not just rules on like, you have to get 20,000 signatures. They make rules on who can collect the signatures, at what time you can collect the signatures. I'm not joking. How you have to write them out, what form you must use, when you can hand them in, how you can hand them in, whether it's a 2-hole punch or a 3-hole punch. I'm not joking. They're that specific. Yes. And if you want the other, they won't count them. In Arizona, you can't have a felon collect your signatures. Again, blatantly unconstitutional. Blatantly. They just make up laws all the time. And the judges go, yeah, that sounds good. They never stop them. Stupid law. We had to sue states. States were saying you couldn't get someone from out of state to come in to collect signatures. Why not? As long as they were a U.S. citizen, who cares? That was a law. A judge actually was like, wow, that's really stupid. Even I'm going to say no to that one. So a judge finally said no to that one. But they have all types of rules. They have rules on who can put them in, how you sign them. And once you do it, by the way, once you submit the signatures, now the Democrats, Republicans will actually send people physically into the Board of Elections to scan every single signature and see if anything's wrong. And here's the worst part. Again, my love of judges. Judges will throw it out for any reason. And I'm not joking. In New York City, if you're in New York City, you live in Brooklyn, your address is whatever it is, Brooklyn, New York. That's your address. If you put that as your address, that's wrong and thrown out. Why? Because officially their county name is Kings County. I'm not joking. They will throw that out as an invalid signature. Shame on any judge who would do that, but they do constantly. So if they tell you have to get tens of thousands of signatures, you've got to get like 20 or 30,000.
Yeah.
So to go out and get all these signatures. So that's the hard part. Each one is separate. We pick states that you don't require the candidate to do anything. Otherwise, we had to coordinate. So the states we looked at were those where there was a specific law that didn't say the candidate must do X. In certain states, anyone can submit signatures. In certain states, the candidate themselves must do it, blah, 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 blah. So that is how we pick those states. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now let's go maybe a little bit you personally, but also you can, if you feel comfortable kind of talking about this, the Super PAC at large, like what the goal would be. Because if, say, you get ballot access here in Massachusetts, great. I think it gives exactly what you're saying. It's First Amendment rights for people like me that don't want to vote for Joe Biden, don't want to vote for Donald Trump, but also and in some ways, unfortunately, some ways, fortunately, I know that my vote doesn't really matter here in Massachusetts. I'm not going to affect.
I live in New York, brother. I'm with you.
No, right. So I get it. But I'm
with you.
But American Values 24 has theoretically achieved ballot access in Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan. Those votes matter. So for you, how do you kind of justify that? Like, are you able to just separate it and say, look, this is morally, ethically, this is the right thing to do, that we live in a democracy. People should be able to vote for whoever they want. How much are you able to tune out what both Biden and Trump are saying of like, you are going to cost me the presidency?
Well, let me cover both parts. First off, if I cost you the presidency, good, you're a shitty candidate. So no problems with that. I hope that's true because they're both crappy candidates. Both of them lose good. So that's just
right.
Your second
but
part.
Like,
now
but the reality is that someone is going to win.
Okay, let me cover all of it. I got answers for these.
Right.
Let me do all three of those. The first piece was the easy one. They suck good. That's why I did that first. Now I'll cover the other two.
Yeah.
The other one you meant is why would we try to get all 50, right? When in certain states we're not going to win. I think you're right. The odds of us winning New York State are slim to none. So why would you do it? Several reasons. Number one, if you get ballot access in all or most states, people are excited. That matters. If you like, I don't know if you like Bobby Kennedy, but if you like Bobby Kennedy and you're considering voting for him, if you can't in your state, you will be shut off. You will be like, well, whatever, I guess I'm voting for Biden or Trump, whatever. But if you can vote for him, you will be energized. You will tell people, you will give money, you will talk to your friends, you will try to get them on podcast. You will do the things, you will be excited because you can vote for him. That's number one. It keeps the entire electorate excited and happy so that we can make things happen. And that will affect other states where we can win, right? If we can win in Arizona, but no one is talking about him in Massachusetts, right? Do Arizonans start thinking about, do I really want to vote for him? So having other people does matter physically, cash flow, everything. But it's a second piece of this, and that is getting for the state ballot access, or even close to it, makes us valid. It makes us valid in the eyes of the mainstream. You might go, do I care about the mainstream? Yes, because people who vote watch mainstream. A lot of people relatively don't watch CNN, Fox, MSNBC anymore, but every one of them who do votes. So I do want those people I want them talking. Hey, Bobby Kennedy's on 50 states. It happened to libertarians in 2012 and 2016. Our best years were the years we had 50 state ballot access. Why? That's when we got into most TV shows. That's when we got ballot access matters because it makes you valid. I saw it specifically in 2018 and 2022 when I ran. In 2018, when I had ballot access, I was everybody's best friend and I was a nobody. In 2022, when I ran, I was already polling at 6% before I even announced, because I've been crossing the state for the last 4 years, building up my name for 4 years. I'd never stopped campaigning. So by the time 2022 came out, I was far more popular than I was in 2018, far more. I'd raised $500,000 again, and I didn't get on the ballot. And when I wasn't on the ballot, no one knew who I was. They all forgot my number. They all forgot me. Being on the ballot made me valid. I was the same guy. In fact, from 2018, I was better, smarter, faster. I'd learned from 2018. I was a better candidate in 2022 than I was in 2018. And they loved me in 2018. What was the difference? The only difference, I was not in the ballot. And it was so obvious how I was treated by the press, family, friends, supporters, donors, changed everything. Being on the ballot makes you valid in the eyes of the mainstream. Now your last piece I'll cover. But somebody's got to win. Here's what you don't understand. And one of the reasons why AB brought me aboard, because I understand this. I'm thinking about this for literally 8 years now. Yes, you can win. All you have to do is stop the other two from getting 270. That's it. You have to have 270 to become president. If you don't, if Bobby Kennedy or anybody else or a combo, Let's say the Greens win Vermont, the Libertarians win Maine and Nebraska, maybe Utah. We can hope, maybe Utah, and maybe Bobby wins Georgia, Michigan, and Arizona, making it up. No one gets 270. If no one gets 270, it goes into the Congress, called the contingent election, 12th Amendment. If that happens, they have to pick from the top three, which would probably be Biden, Trump, and Kennedy. And they're going to have to find literally a compromise candidate. That happened in 1824, 200 years ago. It's also how Thomas Jefferson, how he became president, both through contingent election. So yeah, that happens. You tell me New York is going to vote for Trump? Never. You're telling me Oklahoma is going to vote for Biden? Never. The only compromise candidate would be Bobby Kennedy Jr. That happens, he's president of the United States.
Quite the tale. Yeah.
How would that sit with you? I mean, I think clearly you understand how the electoral.
I would love it so much. I would scream like a little girl.
But okay, but let's say that happens, right? However many 77 million ish are going to have voted for Trump, 70 million ish are going to have voted for Biden. Probably a million or two may have voted for Bobby Kennedy, and he would be president. Would that?
No, probably if that happens, probably more like 5 to 10 million.
Okay.
If that happens, it'll probably be in that area.
I'll give you 10, right?
Yeah. If that were to happen, it's probably more like 5 to 10.
Yeah. I guess how would you think about that outcome?
Awesome. The best thing that ever happened. Do you understand that if that happens, we have just made it so that third parties are valuable? You've just broken the system. You've just broken the system. So if you're listening now and you go, Larry, I hate libertarians. I like Green Party people. They're now valid. Larry, I love libertarians. They're now valid. Larry, I love the Constitution Party. I want the rent is too damn high party. They're now valid. It doesn't matter. Americans get their voice. Once you have a third party, gerrymandering is broken by default. Gerrymandering goes away. All the bad things that I hate about election system go away. So there is no, I know that I'm kind of harping on this because I really believe in my heart, it is the number one thing that will keep us out of violence. We saw violence in 2020. We saw violence in 2022 or 2021. If we don't do something, we're going to see violence in 2025. I don't want that. I think we need the ballot box, not the ammunition box. So let's give people the ballot box. I would be so happy, and I'd be forward with you. Most Americans would be too, because if you look at all the polling, number one thing to remember is most people at the biggest block, the biggest block of voters is those who don't vote. They've given up. All of those people are like, yeah, oh my God, I should have voted. It's great. They're jumping in. Plus, just by numbers, over 70% of Americans in every poll you look at don't want a Biden-Trump rematch. Yeah. So most Americans would actually be happy with somebody else being president.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Bobby Kennedy is that somebody else, but I would agree with agree with you. Yeah.
But actually, so I want to bounce off that is aside from your kind of moral pitch of third parties are super important. And I think Ricky and I can probably both get on board with that. 100%. You selected Bobby Kennedy over Cornel West or Jill Stein. And I think maybe if we can look at from a business perspective, because he has the best chance. But is there any,
accurate.
Do you have any, give me a pitch or give the listeners a pitch why Bobby Kennedy beyond the fact that like he's not Trump or Biden, because otherwise that's the same pitch that they're giving.
Because he has the actual best chance of actually making impact, which is what I'm talking about, right? Look, I'm a libertarian. So would I prefer a libertarian president? Of course, clearly, but I'm not going to get that if we don't break the system. So if Bobby Kennedy was in 2024, I got a shot at libertarian president in 2028. That's why. Whatever president you want, you've got a shot at 2028 if Bobby's president in 2024. Okay. Otherwise, you have no shot. Don't forget this. Bush got us Obama. Obama got us Trump. Trump got us Biden. Yeah. Nobody's winning here. They're just swapping back and forth. Yeah. They're just swapping back and forth. I mean, that is my pitch. Said
another way, this is like, as you were saying, kind of like a future building the infrastructure now so that the future has those opportunities, and in some ways no longer buying the hype of this is the most important election ever because it's always the next election.
It is. Well, look, and I look at my own world, right? Obviously, I am colored by what happened in my life. I saw the value of ballot access. Now, when it was taken away, it collapsed. But I also saw that my stance, my saying in 2018 was, I will break a hole in the system, but you have to follow me through, right? I'd use my Marine analogy. I'm a Marine. I'm going to be in the front. I will make a breach. I will breach the line, but you got to follow me through, right? And in 2019, 107 people did follow me through. So I know it can happen. If Bobby's able to get in that debate stage and win his presidency, people will follow him through. It already happened. They will. That will happen. There's a second piece, though. He is going to, by default, have to have a combo, a combo presidency. He's going to have Democrats and Republicans in his cabinet. He's going to have to.
Yeah, it's like we talk about in Europe, how like they have to form governments amongst like,
Coalition.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Right.
It's going to have to. And something else we don't realize, the vice president is selected by the Senate. And it's from the top two.
Yeah.
So it's going to either be, depending on, say Trump picks Tulsi. I mean, that's the rumor. I don't know if he is, but say he picks Tulsi. So it would be a Bobby Kennedy Tulsi, a Bobby Kennedy Kamala Harris administration.
Yeah, it would certainly be fascinating in a lot of ways.
Yes.
All right. All right. Before we let you go, we've talked plenty about ballot access, but I know that there are a couple other kind of systemic changes that you would love to see. There are things that Ricky and I also have talked about extensively on this podcast, in which we both believe in. So can you maybe briefly talk open primaries, ranked choice voting? Why would those be two critical reforms that could help address a number of the issues that we've talked about throughout this episode?
Yeah, you've talked about what I call the program, right? BRO, program. Better ballot access, ranked choice voting, open primaries. That is how you can break the system without having to win anything, right? If we win things, those go away anyway, right? So, but if we're not, then we got to do something, right? Better ballot access means easier people on the ballot, simpler in some way, shape, or form. We got to focus on that. And judges have to be told, you need to err on the side of leaving people on the ballot. You have to have basically a Hippocratic oath, for that, saying that you want to do no harm, right? So more on the ballot is good. Second is ranked choice voting. I'm not necessarily for specifically ranked choice voting. I'm from any type of voting that is not first past the post. I say ranked choice voting because most people know what that is.
Right.
But approval voting, star voting, I don't care. Any level you want to do it. We do that. Libertarian Party does ranked choice voting, right? We do that. New York City will do it, but only for the Democratic primary. Think about how horrible that is. And again, some judge said that's totally fine. So ranked choice voting only for my people, because we know it's right. You people don't get that. Only we get it. And again, judge like, that's fine. No, that's totally perfect. Yes. So yeah, so ranked choice voting actually takes away, for those who don't know, it says that your first choice, if your first choice doesn't get 50% plus one, meaning a victory, then your votes go to your second choice. That allows you to be both offensive and defensive in your voting. So let's say there are three people voting, and you, like me, are a libertarian. Libertarian running, a Republican running, Democrat running. If you live in Oklahoma and you're libertarian, you probably want a Democrat to win if the Republican doesn't win, because libertarian parties tend to be the opposite of whatever the state is, right? So if in Oklahoma, libertarians lean left because it's a red state. In New York, they lean right because it's a blue state. So they lean the opposite. So if you're in Oklahoma, you probably want the Democrat to win if you don't want the Republican to win. If Libertarian doesn't win, so you'll vote Libertarian in case he wins. He doesn't win, you vote Democrat second, and you don't vote for the Republican at all. In New York, you reverse it. You vote for Libertarian, Republican. That's it. And now what happened? Say there's a Green Party in there or whatever Constitution Party. You put one of them there if you want to, whatever you like. So you get to vote offensively and defensively. It takes away you're a spoiler. But there's something else more importantly. It shows the actual value of that party. In the first round, what if the Libertarian in New York got 13, 14% of the vote in the first round? Now both parties go, ooh, I got to move towards liberty. I got 40% of my population that would have rather had them instead of me. I have to act now, right? Or if you're more left-leaning, you go more green, right? Well, I got to be more left. I got to worry about the environment. I got 40% of my people talking about Green Party. I got to do something. So that's why ranked choice voting makes things better. Not just that, it makes gerrymandering not as effective. Last piece, open primaries. The problem I said right now is if I'm not a member of the Democratic Party, I have no say in my elections right now. With open primaries, I would. I can now do that. Open primaries is kind of unconstitutional before with you. However, because they've allowed parties to run the system, which is unconstitutional, you have to fight their unconstitutionalists with unconstitutional stuff, right? Parties shouldn't be running this, but they are. Since they are, I have to use this tactic to break it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to. So I have to use this tactic to break it. Not just that. You also have states where, at New York is a perfect example of that, the primary is the election.
Yeah.
It's the election. And now people can't be a part of it. So I'm not joking when I say this. In most parts of this country, we do not have a democracy. Democracy is a fantasy in most parts of America for most elections. We actually are fooling ourselves when we say we have a democracy. The program gives us an actual democracy, a way to fight gerrymandering, a way to fight the parties. That's why those three are so critical. Without it, and again, I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but I'm being forward. You are seeing the rise in violence because people aren't being heard. MLK said that. Thomas Jefferson said that. Lots of people say that. And the reason is they're starting to understand we don't have a democracy. It doesn't matter who I vote for. It doesn't matter. Why do you think so many people are checking out Democrat Republican Party? It doesn't matter. They know it doesn't matter. So I'll just sit home, watch Netflix, and who cares if I vote, because you're putting our entire population into a peasant mentality. The peasant mentality means I'll just wait for a good king. Eventually we'll have a good king, and that'll happen one day. But the worst part, which people don't see, is how many people are just checking out. You know this from years ago. A couple years ago, 7 million young men have checked out of our society. That is literally a fascist army waiting to be activated. I'm not joking. You look at every fascist movement, who do they grab? Young disaffected men. In every case, 100% of the time, no exception. So we in our wisdom said, no, why don't we create millions of disaffected young men? That's a good idea, isn't it? And then we'll take away democracy from our people, and we'll have constant wars. What could go wrong? That's what we've literally done. And I'm saying, I see the writing on the wall. Let's not do that.
Let's do the program. I like
Yes,
that.
let's do the program.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's catchy. All right, you've been super generous with your time. Before we wrap up, so I mean, quite honestly, I'm not sure I buy everything you're selling, but there are a few things that I'm a little bit intrigued and inspired by that I will think more about and look more into. If there are other people,
like that.
If there are other people
I'm winning.
that feel similarly after listening to this conversation, where can they go to either follow you or follow American Values and Bobby Kennedy?
Look, the reality of it is, what I want to be clear, what matters when it comes to Bobby Kennedy's campaign is Bobby has to be on the ballot and he has to be on the debate stage. Those two things are going to help change America, whether you like his policies or not, right? Whether you think he can win or not, it doesn't matter. If you want better Democrats and better Republicans, say you're a Democrat, Republican, you wish you had better ones. You're not going to get better ones if you don't have a Bobby Kennedy on the debate stage. If you don't have him on a ballot, you get the same thing you've been getting, which is garbage. It's not going to stop. So again, even if you don't like Bobby, I don't like him, I think he's this or that. Great. Get him on the ballot. Get him on the debate stage and then vote for who you want. But no matter what, these two things are critical. It's what I'm pushing. It's why I do this. It's why it matters. You want to check out his campaign? It's Kennedy24.com. Check out the PAC. Again, the PAC is a separate entity, just to make sure that I don't get in trouble legally. No, guys, don't get me arrested. It's a separate entity. AV24.org. It is American Values 2024, AV24.org. You want to check me out? Just Google Larry Sharpe. I'm on all the things. I'm on all the interweb stuff. I'm on all of it. I'm on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and whatever you want. Larry Sharpe.
Beautiful. Well, Larry, thank you again for joining us, for your perspective, your passion. I think you've given Ricky and I, and hopefully our listeners, a lot to think about, which we appreciate.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, before we started recording, Larry said that he can talk for a long time. And he said at one point that he has his own show, which you can go check out. Again, you can find that on Google or YouTube. But he said at one point that he did 8 hours in a row about how he would fix New York State, and that he ran out of time because he still had plenty more to say after those 8 hours. Rick and I kind of chuckled, and then after hearing him, you can tell that he has plenty to say. But as I said to him at the end, there was so much in that, and he did made me think about a lot of things in a way that maybe I hadn't before, which I found really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't exactly know where you want to start. Maybe I would start with the kind of the quirk in the electoral college system that says if you don't get 270 electoral votes, what is the next step for deciding the presidency?
Right. And he correctly pointed out historically the two times that it's happened, the Thomas Jefferson, John Adams election in 1800, which I think is probably the most famous. It was actually, this was pre-12th Amendment, that Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr actually tied, and then it went into the House of Representatives, which that's how the Constitution works, that if no one wins the Electoral College, it goes to the House of Representatives to decide. And then Alexander Hamilton came in lobbying strongly against Aaron Burr, who would then later go on to kill him in a duel. Everyone probably who's seen Hamilton or is aware of that story knows the ending of that story. But that's how Thomas Jefferson was elected president, which is something I think is like a really interesting historical quirk. Everyone remembers Thomas Jefferson as, our third president, but he got there through the House of Representatives. Also happened, as Larry said, in 1824 with John Quincy Adams. There were with Andrew Jackson and Henry Clay, and there were a lot of deals that were struck in the House of Representatives to get John Quincy Adams to be president. So essentially,
does that happen because there's not a winner take all of electors in state elections, or how did that? So I feel like there's not the right configuration of states where you could get an exact split, or is there? I mean, that was still a 2-candidate election. I'll say, maybe phrase it that way.
No, they weren't. And again, this was the 1824 election is more instructive for history people. So for the 1800 election, you have, at the time, you voted for both the president and the vice president together, right? So that's why Burr and Jefferson had the same number of votes. So we kind of put that aside because they changed that with the 12th Amendment after that disaster. But there were a bunch of candidates, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Henry Clay, other candidates that in 1824, which went to the House of Representatives. And then the way that works is that the House of Representatives, it's not that you get 435 different votes. Every state gets one vote. Massachusetts, even though we only have 9 electoral votes, gets one vote. California with its 53, gets one vote. So there's going to be 50 votes to this year that would decide the presidency. And so
when do you have the rise of the political parties in the way that we have them today?
What do you mean?
That they do basically you wouldn't have that system because somebody would have had to have been primaried out before you get to the general election. So how do you get, how did they have so many candidates? I mean, all of those were sort of big name founding fathers all on the ballot at one time. But how did we get to the general election where they were all running against each other?
Right. Well, the Whig Party existed and the Federalist Party and the Democratic Republicans. I mean, I think people of history know that parties have kind of come and gone. Yeah. We had the Know Nothing Party in the middle, right? And so, yeah, this would be, if you look at it, you're like, where did the Libertarian Party come from? Or where did the Green Party come from? These parties kind of exist at the lower levels. And then for an election, they get a third candidate up there.
Okay. But I mean, since the 1900s, we have not had a real third party candidate.
We haven't.
Like a W.E.B. Du Bois in 1904, right? I mean, there's
It just hasn't happened in a long time. But that's essentially what Larry's kind of saying is that's a problem. Why have we calcified into this 2-party system? Because every time we have a potential challenger, the 2 parties work independently and collectively to ensure that it's just those 2. Right. He correctly pointed to Ross Perot, who we were very young at the time, but Ross Perot made, I do remember in my some early memories,
we were in preschool,
but I do kind of remember him on the debate stage, honestly, with Clinton and Bush up there, and it made a big difference. And he said, since in the last 30 years, obviously we haven't had any third party rise to that sort of level, but we do in this election. And I would have said before this discussion, I was kind of writing Bobby Kennedy off. One, because I think some of his views are really out there, and that's probably being
And
kind.
that with large swaths of the United States.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think not only are some of his views and policies not winning policies, largely, but also I think there are serious concerns scientifically about some of his policies. But what Larry's pitch is, and honestly, this is the part that I bought, is it's really not about Bobby Kennedy. It's about the system.
That was clear, yeah.
And if we all agree, and Ricky, we have spent 3 years on this podcast railing against the system, advocating for a lot of the changes, the ranked choice voting, open primaries, those sorts of things that Larry just talked about. If we're really serious about that, then we need a third party. And we know that. We've said that for a long time. And this is our best chance in our lifetimes, in our voting lifetimes, certainly, to have a third party candidate, get ballot access, get on the debate stage, have a real chance of denying either of the two major parties 270.
Yeah. And I think the argument is that if you can show that it can be done, then you upend the status quo. And then moving forward, we can get into like proper third parties, because I think the issue that I would have is that like I 100% buy all of that. Am I willing to do that in the name of Bobby Kennedy?
Yeah.
Probably not. But I'm here to get with the program.
Yeah, I know that was great. But even I think the scary part is, what does that actually look like for 4 years? And I think Larry is correct. And Ricky, we just talked about it last week on the podcast of fear, fear, fear. That's how these candidates in their parties, this is how they stay in power. This is how they get people to vote for them. We hate that. But like, there's a little something to being president is kind of an important job, like not only for our country, but like globally. What is Bobby Kennedy in this kind of, say we break the system? Well, what does that look like for 4 years? Is that actually a good thing? I kind of, when like theoretically, I'm like, yes, of course. But if we're actually putting this into practice, I have no idea how it would work. And Larry kind of told us it would be Bobby Kennedy and whoever Trump picks, or Bobby Kennedy and Kamala Harris. How does that work in the House and the Senate?
Yeah, I mean, and then no matter what, he's got to deal with Democrats and Republicans in the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
So you do get some kind of a ruling coalition. And I mean, I think to his point, he would argue that a Bobby Kennedy is not, if you're a Democrat, can't be worse than Trump,
Yeah.
or if you're a Republican, can't be worse than Biden. So I don't know, and maybe that is kind of the point, that they have lulled, the two-party system has really lulled us into the sense, us being sort of the broader electorate, into the sense that like this election is too important to mess around with. But that thinking was, like you said, it's been there for every election that he's ever been a part of since the 1970s, and probably before that. And that's how we got into this situation where we have Democrats that were not interested, even from the Democratic Party, not that interested in, and likewise for Republicans. So I mean, I think he brings up a lot of fascinating points.
I agree. And he is correct that the two parties are scared of Bobby Kennedy Jr., particularly Democrats. He pointed to the $1 billion+ they're spending on trying to deny people ballot access, which just sounds horrible. But both parties optimistically feel that Kennedy would take votes from the other party. But I think behind closed doors and things that you don't want to talk about at parties, you're worried that he's taking votes from you. But that, again, if you are a third party person, you're like, exactly. He's not going to deny Biden the win. He's not going to deny Trump to win. He's going to deny both of them the win. And that doesn't sound so bad. Honestly, Ricky, I have some things to think about.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe like the last thing that I would add is that I had never considered that and sort of an avenue for a third party candidate to win, as in like they don't really win, but they win just enough so that nobody else wins, and then everybody hates the other guy so much that they're the only, which is kind of like the ranked choice sort of way
Sure.
to think about it too, which
Yeah.
is also, fair in this regard. And I think even just getting that knowledge out there is helpful. And I had never heard of a third party candidate being pitched in that way, that
Yeah.
like I don't have to win 270
Right.
votes or 26 states. I just need to win enough that they don't win.
He might only need to win one state.
Yeah.
Like really, like depending
Yeah.
on how everything falls out,
Yeah.
like depending on what that state is, like there's just a lot of permutations. So again, thought it was valuable, lot to think about. Thanks to Larry for that, for giving us all those things to think about.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get Kornacki back on one day and see what the path would be. What counties. that
Yeah.
we
I
have
think
to
once we
follow.
go forward in this process and we start to see the states, obviously we have deadlines coming up to see what states RFK actually qualifies for. I think that would be a great idea. If you like what you heard today, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, obviously anywhere you get your podcasts, on Instagram at @a_gentlemen's_disagreement. We appreciate, as always, people who listen every week or people who just tuned in for this episode. Thought it was a fascinating conversation. And again, huge thanks to Larry for his time and perspective.
Yeah. That was great. All right. Till next time, buddy.
See ya.
But I wouldn't give for the hope I used to find in a case of lion's head. Folks of different minds, because even though we did not share the pains we share, that American ideal, friends made over arguments in an early morning buzz. Need an early morning buzz.